Frank Quismorio. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good to see your face. It's been a while, and I'm really grateful that we've got the opportunity to sit down and chat for a couple minutes. We saw each other at the inaugural a couple months ago, and I think we didn't get more than about 3 minutes with one another. And I'm sorry for that because I enjoy speaking with you whenever I see you.
Chris, I feel the same way. I think we're ships passing in the night, and I think it's time for us to set the sails down and let's get to know each other. So I want to thank you for.
Yeah, absolutely. So Frank, just a bit about you. You've been in the business of real estate about 5-6 years now?
Yeah, I just got my license in 2017, believe it or not. It's not been that long. Prior to that, if you will allow me, I was in telecommunications, a large telecom company here, well, based nationally, but I've been mainly here locally in the Bay Area. And I did that for 30 years.
You grew up here, didn't you? You're a Bay Area native, aren't you?
I am a Bay Area native. I actually grew up across the bay in Palo Alto. Went to.
Oh, is that right? I'm a Peninsula kid too.
Are you? Well, I graduated from a high school that is no longer there, Cubberley High School.
Cubberley, okay. Don't know that one.
They only have Pally and Gunn now. After I graduated in '78, I think they closed it a couple years after that.
Okay.
Due to budget cuts and whatnot, it's sad, but hey.
Same thing. Listen, we had, I grew up in San Carlos and Belmont. We had San Carlos High.
Yeah.
And so it was the same thing. I think the last class was 79 or 80, and then they closed it, several years later, but it wasn't the actual campus was there for a long time.
Right.
And I would imagine probably the same thing, that they ended up eliminating most of it except for the playground, the sports fields, and the rest of it got turned into housing.
They turned it to an adult education center, so they were able to use the classrooms for adult ed, which is great. I'm glad they did. But the football field was pretty messed up, so they didn't redo that. And you're right, they kept the playgrounds for the kids, and they had a nice theater there, which they were able to keep. I think the city used it to host some of their events too. So it was kind of nice. But so. That's where I grew up, and that's why I after I actually took an early retirement package that they offered in 2016, and I said, you know what am I going to do? I don't think I want to really retire yet.
Yeah.
So I had a good neighbor here by the name of Jim Lopez.
Okay.
He's since then moved, and he was working at Realty Experts here in Fremont.
Okay.
And he said, Frank, why don't you come in and check out our office? I want you to meet a couple of people, Chuck Udell and Melrose Ford, the two managers there at Realty Experts. And
folks have been around for a long time, right?
They've been around. They've both been Bay East presidents. They've been around for quite a while. They became my mentors. And to this day, that is why I remain at Realty Experts.
That's great. And of course, Realty Experts has got this pedigree now, right? With Steve Medeiros is now our president for Bay East MLS. So, that says a lot about that organization, right?
Yeah. There's been a few people, Steve, and I know Allison Hull, who is also on the board of directors. She's one of our realtors.
Yep.
Sumi Jingun has been on the board of directors. So they've both Melrose and Chuck have actually encouraged quite a few of us to get involved with the realtors.
And on that note, I was doing a little bit of homework, and so you gave us a good background on your where you came from and how you got here, but we didn't get a chance yet to speak about the accolades. So winning 2019 Rookie of the Year is a big deal. You obviously came into the business in 17 and then got to work. So walk us through, what's it take? What's it take to get that, that award or that recognition? What kind of energy do you put into it, and how many deals do you have to, do you have to close?
Well, that's the thing, Chris. People ask me the same thing. They said, boy, you must have closed a lot of deals to get that. And honestly, that's not why it happened. I really do think the reason it happened is because of my involvement at that time with the Tri-City marketing Association.
Oh, interesting.
I was tapped on the shoulder in 2018 and invited to a telemarketing meet or Tri-City marketing meeting. And soon after that, I was tapped again and said, "Hey, we're looking for a treasurer. You interested?" I said, "Yeah, well, let's give it a shot." Did that. All of a sudden, I was seeing all these Bay East Association committees and groups, and I was soon put in the Professional Standards Committee. Melrose Ford, again, as I mentioned, one of the big sponsors, was a big proponent of getting me involved in a lot of these things.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we have that in common, right? So like I have found that, in the time that I've been in this business, the key in many ways is engagement, getting involved in the community and getting, involved in the right circles with the right people, right? It can really make a difference in the trajectory of things. And I have a big philosophy, and I think you do too, and that is, givers get. And not to have an agenda about it, but just to know and understand that, if you are a helper and a problem solver, good things will come back to you.
I totally agree. And Chris, I would be remiss if I would not say congratulations again to you as the 2022 Bay East Affiliate of the Year.
Yeah,
so we do share that in common, my friend.
Yeah,
so.
a very humbling moment in time in many, many ways, and was really kind of in disbelief when it happened. But I'm very, very happy to have taken the acknowledgement. You have been a Tri-Cities Marketing Council member for a while. I've been with the Central County Marketing Group for going on 4 years now. And I said it at the inaugural, and I meant it when I said it. These places are incubators. Yeah. There are opportunities in these rooms that you can't get elsewhere. There's education in these rooms that you can't get elsewhere. And engaging with them and leaning into what goes on in those meetings can really change your career, can really give you a lot of opportunity to grow as a professional. And I certainly have in the time that I've been doing it. So thanks for the acknowledgement.
Oh, you deserve it, Chris. And I did want to add on to what you just said. As a new realtor, I realized, hey, I got to find my lenders. I got to find inspectors. I got to find title people. How do I go get all these? Well, I found them at the marketing meetings. Yep. I quickly partnered with a lot of these people and said, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad I got to this meeting because it was able to help me develop my team. And I do utilize a lot of their services to this day. I did sell a few houses the first year, not as many as I'd like to.
Sure.
But knowing that I had made those connections through those meetings, and again, now continually through Bay East, really does help. I agree with you.
So let's shift gears and talk a bit about the market. And I mean, we had a couple really good years, right?
Yes, we did.
If you were in this business over the last couple of years and you didn't have record years, you probably shouldn't be in this business.
Great.
But here we are now, the beginning of 23. We've had some instability in the financial markets again, unfortunately. And the instabilities come in a couple of different forms, if you will. So we've had some pretty aggressive interest rate moves. Some would want to argue it's the Fed that's done it, but really it's inflation more than anything else, and economic uncertainty that's driven rates up the way that it has. But now, we've got some instability in the markets around liquidity, and some of the regional banks kind of, falling in on themselves. Are you seeing that bubble up in your business? What's been your experience, or what's been, happening in your markets?
I have heard rumblings from clients asking questions more and more about it.
Yeah.
The uncertainty is definitely there.
Yeah.
I have not had a situation where I've been, where all of a sudden a deal fell through because a financial institution was not able to support it. I haven't had anything like that.
Good.
But and what it's showing me too is, Chris, is that you pretty much put your name on a listing and in the last couple of years, and you're right. Unless you didn't have a pulse, you pretty much were going to get that deal.
Yeah.
Today, you gotta definitely work the deals. That's
Yep.
the difference.
Yeah.
In fact, I just had a class back at my brokerage where we were going through a little bit more with a fine-tooth comb the purchase agreement, the residential purchase agreement, RPA,
Yeah.
because I think initially when we all went through the new version of it, it's 16 pages, obviously now.
Yeah, and there was a lot of change to it too, right? So
yeah.
like it's a pretty significant rewrite of what was there. And I think, they were trying to boil it down and make it simpler. And I'm not convinced yet.
Well, what I think they did is they tried to bring a lot of the details up to the first 3 pages.
Yeah.
The thing is, you still have to be able to explain all that to your client.
Absolutely.
So I think previously we had clients that would just say, oh yeah, forget it. I'll read it later. Just let me sign it, because they wanted to get the deal before somebody else jumped in ahead of them.
Right.
I think now I've got clients that are a little bit more cautious, which they should be.
Yep.
And we should be able to explain the questions they have, what's going on in that contract. So that's why we're taking this time now, as things are kind of not as active as they were last year or the years before, to really get through that.
I'm curious, because I have an opinion here, or a thought anyway. I'm curious, is that because the market's allowed us some breathing room, or is that because the clientele has gotten a little more sophisticated?
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think our clients have definitely gotten more sophisticated based on what they've been seeing online and learning. And just because you got to know more about what you're doing in the market. But I do think that the market itself is lending a little bit to it. So,
yeah. My experience on the lending side of the equation has been, that my clients are asking better questions than they've ever been. And, I love it. I think it's fantastic for me personally. If you challenge me on any of the loan documentation or any of the structuring of the loan, you're making me a better loan officer.
I totally agree. And on the real estate agent side also, challenge me with things that I should know, but you're right. Clients are getting more sophisticated and asking harder questions, which it's good. It really is better for our industries. So.
Yeah. So getting out of the marketplace down in the Tri-City area, how have your weekends been? Busy?
Not as busy as I'd like. I'll be honest with you. I have seen a lot of openings and listings on MLS. I'll drive down one of the main drags and see a lot more open house signs than I used to, quite honestly. But so the houses are there. The inventory is there. I think people are just being a little bit more cautious with regard to the financial situations right now as to how do they want to pull the trigger right away, or do they want to wait a little bit? That's kind of where I've got to help them, convince them a little bit to make a move now, because there really isn't going to be a better time. I've personally done a number of these temporary buy downs, which I don't love the way that's described. I prefer to refer to them as payment subsidies, because that's a more accurate description. When you talk about buy downs, people want to think about permanent buy downs, which, that's the idea of I'm going to pay a point for a particular interest rate. Whereas a temporary buy down is more of a payment subsidy that you're using, seller concession money for, to make up the difference in payment for 1 or 2 or 3 year period of time. And we did a bunch of them over the last 7 to 10 months, but I'm finding that all of a sudden there's a little resistance, that there's not as much willingness to do the seller concession thing as there was maybe a couple months ago previously.
And I think it's because there's a little more inventory coming on the market, and people are starting to rally a little bit. Now, to your point, that's been, that's been softening a little bit because of what's going on in the last couple of weeks. But I think we're kind of in a sweet spot. And, I'm telling folks I've got pre-approved in my pipeline, don't wait. But you find something that you can get into and that you can live with for a 5 year period of time or so. It may not be perfect, but getting in is the goal. It's not getting the perfect home. Now, if you get lucky and happen to catch both of those in the same deal, great.
You're golden. Yeah.
But I find that first time buyers in particular have this mentality or ideology, like it has to check all the boxes. What are your thoughts there? Does that you find that to be the case too?
I do too.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. They've got that checklist, and they're making sure everything, is it the right rate? Are we within it? All those different things.
Does it have the right number of bedrooms? Does it have the right number of bathrooms? Do I have to do any work on it? Maybe it speaks a lot to the busyness of our lives these days, that I don't want to buy a project. Like, so for me, Robin and I, when we bought this house in Castro Valley 20 years ago, I told the first agent that we were working with, look, don't bring me anything that's turnkey. I'm willing to work on it. I want to put my own equity and put some sweat equity into it. I don't hear that a lot.
No. And I think that is to your point. I think people are saying, I've got a lot of things I got to do. I don't want to put a lot of effort into this. I've had very few clients that have wanted a fixer-upper. I'll be honest. I've had a lot of them that just want, like you said, turnkey. I want to get in. I want everything working the way it should be. I don't want to have to worry about it.
Yeah, I want to get back to work. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about business development, because it's always, it's always on our minds, right? I mean, as commission salespeople, essentially, we're always worried about where the next deal is coming from. I know what I do on a daily and weekly basis, but I'm curious, and I'm happy to share, by the way. But what are you doing, and what's working for you?
Well, I'm going to say, Chris, I've changed kind of my strategy for this year, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
I really am using more referrals now than I am trying to go out and get new business.
Good.
I've gotten quite a few clients that have been giving me referrals that I feel comfortable with. I'm not going out and trying to make a lot of money, quite honestly, Chris.
Yeah. Stay busy.
I am staying busy. And one of the big changes in my life that just happened is my first grandchild was born last year. So
yes, that's fantastic. Congratulations. That's wonderful.
So I've been asked by my daughter, Dad, are you as flexible still with your real estate schedule? I go, oh, yeah. And she goes, well, can you babysit maybe one day a week? So I could, you know what? I'd love to do that. So that's what I'm doing, Chris. I'm not going out and pursuing as much new business as I used to.
Good for you.
I'm spending time with my grandson. I am, I'm working with referrals, and it's keeping me busy enough that I like.
That's great. Put it this way. I see a lot of folks who are willing to pay big name internet companies lots of money for lead generation. I'm of the opinion, I could do the same, but I just don't know if that money is effective. And so I would rather take really good care of the people that come across my desk and through my phone, so that they wind up being good referral sources for me.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a better way to build a longer term business, to go deeper with the clients that you have, as opposed to trying to pick up everybody that walks by.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that you have the same attitude, in that I've said it a few times. Not everybody is a fit for me. By the same token, I'm not a fit for everyone.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris. I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of good clients, and they felt comfortable sending some of their family members to me or friends, and it's enough for me. I mean, there's enough out there for everybody. And
I find that so CCMG has this kind of overarching abundance mindset, and I certainly carry it. I see a few other people that do as well. I have to remind people, not often, but occasionally, that there's 14 million people that live here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and the 9 counties that surround the water that we live around. 14 million people. I mean, I don't need everybody.
Yeah.
I just need a few of them and I can make a pretty decent living at it.
Agreed.
And then to your point, because the small moments are the ones that count, helping people realize that dream of home ownership, spending time with a grandchild, celebrating a loved one's birthday, getting away for a little bit of a vacation. We work to support those things, not the other way around, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In my previous work life of the 30 years, I barely had enough time for my family. So
well,
that's why I love being.
It's interesting. It's really interesting, Frank. We have that in common. I came from Silicon Valley as well. I worked in the Valley for almost 20 years, and in a variety of roles: marketing, communications, trade show management, regulatory affairs, business development, a bunch of different things. And we worked hard, and there was a long commute, and there were days when I would leave the house at 6 a.m, get home at 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And there were many more of those days than I care to count. In 2016, when I got into this business full time, my kids were just going into middle school and coming out of elementary school, and I got a lot more time with them because I was a lot more available, and I wouldn't give up that for anything.
Oh, God love you, Chris. That's that's why we do what we do. I mean,
Yep.
it's for those guys, and you're right. I mean, both you and I are fortunate. I mean, you're right. We have a lot of similar tracks here, but we're fortunate to be given an opportunity that we have now. And I'm just glad that we made the change. I made the change. So
yeah, I'm excited to see what's next. In terms of where you go with Bay East. You have designs on the leadership role there.
I've been asked.
Okay.
And right now I'm at the board of directors, and I've got at least another year there, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I have yet to see.
Yeah, one step at a time. The beauty of working for an organization like this is there are opportunities almost on a continual basis. You can step in and out as you see fit. Yeah.
You can, and you're right. I mean, it truly is. I mean, being acknowledged and being asked is my gosh. I mean, I'm just humbled.
Yeah.
When that happens, but it makes you realize, you know what? Maybe you did something to earn that, and hopefully, I am giving back to it. So
yeah, listen, there's no question about it. Somebody said, do you ever think that maybe they gave you that thing because you were different from other people? And I kind of had to take a step back and think about that for a second. I'm like, well, maybe, let me ask you one last one. A few years in now, got a good book of business going for yourself. Mm-hmm. Recommendations for somebody that's been in this business a couple of years, have seen some success, and now the market's shifting and they're not quite sure, maybe the ground's moving underneath them. What would be your advice to somebody, who is either just getting in or is questioning whether or not they should stay?
I think one of the main things, the first things to do is get a mentor, get somebody that you truly can have advise you, not just within real estate, but, kind of I know we think of our partners in life, our spouse, but you kind of have to have a business partner like that too. Yep. That's going to look after, not just what you're doing in your real estate or in your loan business or lending business, but, make it work for your family too. And if you get somebody good and you're fortunate enough to find a person like that, I think it'll go a long way. So if you have not found someone like that, I would truly recommend that. So.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And I'm 7 years in at this point, and I'm just now finding a couple people that I can rely on in that way. And it's really making a difference.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really making a difference. So, well, listen, Frank, I'm so thrilled to have had the opportunity to sit down with you and learn a bit more, understand a bit more about your business, what's worked for you, how the success that you've gotten to or reached has been arrived at. Super grateful for the time.
And I'm grateful for you to ask me to be part of your podcast too, Chris. Thank you.